He was worth billions. He could buy anything, except the one thing he wanted most, to be loved for who he truly was. So he did something no billionaire had ever dared to do. He handed 3 women in his life his unlimited credit card with no rules, no spending limit, and 3 days to use it however they wished. His girlfriend, his assistant, and his maid. What he discovered would shatter everything he believed about love, loyalty, and wealth. Because when the spending stopped, when the masks fell, it wasn't the woman he trusted most who passed the test. It was the one he had almost never noticed. Peter Rafford had conquered the world on paper, tech genius, global investor, cover of every business magazine that mattered, private jets, penthouse views, a fortune so large it had stopped feeling real. But behind the power, the deals, and the applause, Peter was profoundly alone. Every smile around him felt rehearsed. Every touch felt calculated. Every relationship came with a price tag. His girlfriend adored the lifestyle more than the man. His assistant admired the empire more than the builder. And the one person who asked for nothing from him was the woman who cleaned his house. The world called him successful, but inside, Peter felt like the poorest man he knew. He didn't know who loved him. He didn't know who stayed for him and who stayed for what he could give. So, one night, staring at the city lights from his penthouse window, with the weight of his empire pressing on his chest, Peter made a decision that would change all of their lives. If money was the language everyone around him understood, then money would reveal the truth. Peter Rafford was the kind of man the world called unstoppable, a self-made billionaire, a visionary in technology and cybersecurity. His name whispered in boardrooms and printed across the covers of global magazines. To the world, Peter had everything, but inside he was exhausted, not from work, not from pressure, but from people, from the constant performance of affection, from the endless parade of admiration that always seemed to arrive with expectations, from relationships that felt more like negotiations than connections. Everywhere he turned, he saw the same hunger in their eyes, not for him, but for what he represented: money, access, status, power. His girlfriend loved the gifts, his associates loved the opportunities, his assistant loved the position. And yet, in the quiet moments when the penthouse fell silent and the city below dimmed its lights, Peter felt something hollow echoing in his chest. A question he could never escape. If all of this disappeared tomorrow, would anyone still choose me? That was his wound. Not loneliness, uncertainty. The unbearable fear that no one in his life truly loved him for who he was, only for what he could provide. 3 women stood closest to Peter's life. Each one loved him, or so they claimed. But each loved him differently. Lana was his girlfriend, beautiful, charismatic, magnetic. She knew how to light up a room and how to spend a fortune without blinking. To her, love was luxury, and affection arrived wrapped in designer labels. Beneath the charm lived vanity and entitlement, a belief that Peter's wealth existed to sustain the life she felt she deserved. Stella was his assistant, brilliant, efficient, impeccably controlled. She managed his world with precision and poise, but behind the professionalism burned a quiet, relentless ambition. Every decision she made moved her one step closer to power, and Peter was the ladder. Then there was Mirabel, the woman who cleaned his home, who spoke only when spoken to, who never asked for anything, never complained, never tried to impress. She moved through his world like a soft shadow, unnoticed, uncelebrated, yet carrying a quiet compassion that filled the spaces no one else seemed to see. 3 women, 3 roles, 3 very different hearts. And somewhere between the noise of his empire and the silence of his loneliness, Peter made a decision. He would stop listening to words. He would stop trusting performances. He would let money, the very thing that surrounded his life, strip away every mask. If wealth revealed character, then he would give them all the same power. And watch what they did with it. Not to punish them, not to trick them, but to finally learn the truth. 3 envelopes, each one identical, each one containing a black, unmarked credit card with no spending limit, no instructions, no expectations, no restrictions, just 3 simple words, 3 days, no rules. Peter handed 1 envelope to Lana, 1 to Stella, and 1 to Mirabel. He didn't explain himself. He didn't justify it. He simply watched their faces as the weight of possibilities settled in. Because when people are finally free, their true desires speak louder than anything they could ever say or to hurt. And then the world began to reveal them. Lana disappeared into the glow of luxury, designer stores, private parties, yacht decks and rooftop champagne, her phone filled with photos, her life with applause, every dollar spent in service of ego and image. Her love, it became clear, was built on attention, and attention is always rented, never owned. Stella moved with strategy. She booked elite resorts, private meetings, exclusive events. She didn't chase pleasure, she chased position. Every purchase was an investment in her next level. Her affection was not emotional, it was transactional. Then there was Mirabel. She went to the grocery store. She paid off a hospital bill for a neighbor. She brought meals to the homeless. She visited an orphanage with books and food and quiet laughter. No photos, no announcements, no audience. She used wealth the way some people use prayer, to heal what the world keeps breaking. Peter watched it all unfold. Every receipt, every location, every choice. And with each passing hour, one truth became impossible to escape. When people are given everything, they reveal who they truly are. Money had not changed them, it had exposed them. 3 days later, Peter invited them all to dinner. The table was set with crystal and candlelight. A room built for celebration, now prepared for truth. Lana arrived first, dressed in fire and confidence. Stella followed, calm, composed, unreadable. Mirabel came last, quiet, uncertain, out of place. They sat together for the first time since receiving the cards, each one carrying a version of herself the others had never seen. Peter did not waste time. He spoke calmly, carefully, with a weight in his voice that silenced the room. He told them he had watched. He told them he had listened. He told them the experiment was over. Then he began. He spoke of Lana's spending, of the parties, the ridicule, the cruelty wrapped in laughter, of a love that lived only for attention and applause. Lana's smile cracked, her anger rose, and without another word, she stood and walked out. Next, he turned to Stella. He spoke of the meetings, the alliances, the ambition disguised as loyalty. Stella's composure broke into bitterness. She accused, she denied. Then she left as well, her heels echoing like gunshots against the marble floor. And then the room went quiet. Only Peter and Mirabel remained. He spoke of groceries, of hospital bills, of children at an orphanage who fell asleep in her lap. Mirabel's eyes filled with tears, not from shame, from being seen. She had nothing to defend, nothing to explain. She stayed. After the others were gone, after the echoes of their footsteps faded, Peter remained seated at the long dining table. The mansion had never felt so empty. Mirabelle stood near the door, unsure whether she was allowed to stay or supposed to leave. Peter finally spoke. He apologized. Not as a billionaire, not as her employer, but as a man who had been afraid for a very long time. He told her how lonely wealth had made him, how every relationship felt conditional, how exhausting it was to never know who saw him and who only saw his fortune. Mirabelle listened. Then she spoke of her own life, of scarcity, of caring for others, of learning to survive quietly, of believing kindness mattered even when no one noticed. They spoke of fear, of loneliness, of the ache of wanting to belong somewhere in the world. And for the first time, two people who lived in entirely different worlds found themselves standing on the same emotional ground. No romance, no promises, just two human beings finally seen. From that night forward, everything began to change, not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily and permanently. Mirabelle was elevated but never changed. She did not become louder, she did not become someone else. She simply carried her quiet strength into new spaces. Peter softened. The armor he had worn for years finally loosened. He stopped performing wealth and started living as a man. The mansion, once cold and echoing, became a home. Laughter replaced silence. Shared meals replaced formal dinners. Morning light filled rooms that had long been dark. And from the heart of it all, something larger was born. Not a business, not an empire, a purpose. Together they created pathways for healing, charity work, shelter, education, small acts of mercy that stitched hope back into broken places. What had begun as a test had quietly become a life. Years passed, not in headlines, not in stock prices, but in moments. A wedding held without cameras, a daughter's first laugh echoing through the once silent halls. A foundation built not for recognition, but for people the world had forgotten. The mansion became a refuge, for families, for children, for the wounded and the weary. Peter was no longer measured by what he owned, but by what he gave. Mirabelle remained the same woman the world had once overlooked, except now her compassion carried the weight of real change. And the man who once tested love with wealth had finally learned how to receive it. In the end, wealth did not save him. Power did not heal him. Status did not fulfill him. Character did. Love built quietly, lived honestly, shared without condition. In the quiet that followed the years, long after the applause of the world had faded, after the deals were done, and the money had lost its voice, Peter would often sit beside Mirabelle and watch the sun settle into the horizon. No crowds, no cameras, no performance, just two people who had found what mattered. And in those moments, he finally understood the truth that had escaped him all his life. You can search the world for wealth, build empires, collect everything that shines. But the greatest fortune is finding someone who gives without asking.